What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of The Trail Ahead. This is my boy, Bo.
What's up, guys? Good to be here.
Why is it so awkward like that, bro?
I thought it was a quick transition into me. All right, I feel it. It's all right.
Bo is our social media guy, a longtime friend of mine. Really good, just a really good guy, bro. Just a good dad, good father.
Yeah.
Good guy. I'm really excited.
Appreciate that.
I mean it, bro. I mean it. just trying to get a discount on the social media at the restaurant, bro. No, but I'm really excited to have him on here. You know, he's just a really good entrepreneur. Really started his own business, had this dream to kind of do it, raise his son, work from remote, and just kind of build a life outside of a restaurant or outside of an actual business. So he's really doing a great job. Really condone him. I guess it's a
Condemn.
Condemn. Yeah, you're like, well, it's a wrong word.
No, I appreciate it, man. Thank you so much.
Mean a lot, dude. Mean a lot. I'm happy to have him on here. So, yeah, this podcast is really just going to be about taking that next step. How kind of sometimes it can be scary to kind of take the next step, kind of get out of your comfort zone, and just kind of go into the unknown.
Yeah,
I think that's really scary for a lot of people. I've been there. I know you have too. So, I just kind of wanted to ask you, how did you kind of go into the next level? How did you I know you were working for a title company, right?
Yep. Yeah, man. So I know that your podcast is about, personal growth, overcoming challenges as a human, all of those things. And, for me, I was working for a title company here in Arizona, Pioneer Title. And, the challenge for me was later on. And sorry, I'm smiling because this cat's chewing on the cords.
Yeah, my animals have been all over him.
Sorry, I love pets. No, but yeah. So I was like working in that space.
I can see.
I was working in that space, and I was like, man, about like 4 or 5 years into it, I was like, you know what? I just like want more. I have like this creative thing inside me that's like, you need to go and you need to just like pursue this, whether honestly it's a success or whether it's a failure. I didn't really care. I was like, I have to try this one way or another. And so that leap is really hard for some people because it's like, man, I have a safe job, I make good money, I have insurance, I have retirement, I have all of these things. However, I'm not fulfilled in what I'm doing, whether that's financially fulfilled, whether that's fulfilled because you just don't feel like you're doing just like what God meant for you to do. And so for me, I was like, I just know I could be more creative in what I do day to day. And so, and make more money and all of that, of course, because as you grow in your entrepreneur world and in your business, like you just start to make more and more and more money. Mm-hmm. And money is not shouldn't be the goal. The goal should be pouring into people, pouring into businesses, and at least for me, and making sure that they are satisfied, they're happy, they're growing, and then because of that, the result will be that you will grow. And so it's been really amazing, but that's pretty much like why I made the leap that I made. And yeah, it wasn't easy. Still isn't easy. Like there's challenges that we face in the business every day. But I love it. Like I wouldn't change it. I like love exactly what I do. I love the things that are coming up soon. But yeah, it doesn't mean that it's easy, not at all. But, and then I'll let you talk because I'll just ramble about this stuff. But what's also not easy is just staying where you are. Like that's really challenging too. So like, and this goes for all different things about life, because I know you talk about like addiction or whatever it is, like not you particular, but like some people will go through addiction. Some people will go through depression. Some people will go through different things. Yeah. Like quitting something, whether it's a relationship, whether it's substance, whether it's a job, like no matter what it is you're quitting, that decision is going to be hard and it's going to have its own set of challenges, but staying in that place is also going to be equally, if not harder. Mm-hmm. So anyways.
He's gonna hop on your shoulders.
That's all right.
He's gonna hop on your shoulders.
This is a she, right?
That's a he.
Oh, sorry. He appreciates what I said.
There he goes, dude. No, I think that's the scariest thing, honestly, is to be uncomfortable, but at the same time, it's where you grow.
Yeah.
You don't grow when you're comfortable. I think that was the big reason why, for me personally, moving to Vail and moving to Colorado was the biggest decision for me, and I grew, exponentially. Yeah. And I grew a lot, and coming home and going to the restaurant, helping out with that has been, such a blessing. And to see it grow and flourish. But that's a big thing personally for like business wise is at the restaurant, you know, if we can have this idea, why not shoot for it, right? If it doesn't work out like you said, well then so be it. And if it does, then thank God it did, right?
Well, yeah, like the worst case, like the reason I love entrepreneurship and just like personal growth, and like for me, entrepreneurship, like it like is the umbrella of all of those things. It's the umbrella of personal growth, growth in my family, growth in my work, growth in my faith. It encompasses all of it. And so what's interesting is about trying something and it not working out. So like when you want to try something, you are faced with like two decisions. I'm going to try it or I'm not going to try it. I'm going to take the risk or I'm not going to take the risk. And when you decide, and you know, different risks are bigger than others, but if it's like, I'm going to try this thing and then worst case scenario, I end up right back where I am right now. Like that was a lesson. That is most risk. Now you have other risks where it's like, I'm going to put 100K on the line and invest in this thing. And if it doesn't work out, you know, then I'm out 100K. So there's different levels of risk, but at the end of the day, like when you go to make a risk, what's the worst? You have to ask yourself, what's the worst case scenario when it comes to this? And if it's, I'm going to end up right back where I am now, then go for it, you know, because you're fine right now. Like you're fine right now. Now it's just like, can I make my life better? Can I start to pursue something that could really change my life for the better long term? So anyways.
Do you think having a child and having a family and doing that is more scary? And if so, how did you overcome that? Because I know you have a son and you have a wife. So was it like more scary to kind of take that next step because you had a family kind of behind you? And if it didn't work out, it wasn't just you involved, it was the whole family?
Yeah, not really, only because, number one, like my family is a huge motivation behind what I do. And so it's like, I don't want to just survive. I want to thrive, you know? And so when it comes to like my family, it's like, if I'm not taking risks, then I'm leaving things on the table that I could provide for them, whether that's money, whether that's experiences, whether that's just being the best person that I can be for them, and giving my son an example that he can look up and say, no matter what, I'm going to do everything I can to be the best version of me that I can be. Again, this doesn't mean money. Like this could mean just you as a person. And so yeah, I think like when my son was born, it was just, I kind of had this stuff already kind of in my mind and I wanted to do it. But once he was born, I was like, man, now I really got to go hard. And, you know, like I hate the term like grind, but like, you know, really just work hard, stay consistent, you know, meet new people, shake more hands, talk to more people, post more on social, do more and more and more and more. Because always my history has shown the more I do, the more success that comes, whether that's like internal success that I have and I just feel satisfied with what I'm doing. That's money. That's all the different things. So yeah, to answer your question, no, I mean, it more so pushed me to do more. Now because again, I was doing 6 figures at the job that I was at before. So it's not, so the worst case scenario was that I would go back and I have a great job working for a great company and it would have been fine no matter what. Now that, you know, that being said, that whole like no matter what it's gonna be fine, that's just more my mentality. But there were a lot of people around me that were like, you know, what if it doesn't work out? It's like, what if it doesn't work out? I'll go get a job.
I think that's like kind of like the most, I know it's sad because like some people, I don't know, like people don't really like hype you up, right? Like I feel like if you have a friend saying, oh, you know, I have a friend who owns a beer barn up in Flag, a good friend of mine, and he was saying like everyone's like, well, everyone's been out of business, you know, that has been in that location before, you know. Why would you go and have, you know, create something in that business? Everything else has failed, but why wouldn't you, right? He's now the number 1 rated bar in all of Flagstaff. Yeah. So if you don't take that next step, like you said, you have to like you regret it, and also you don't feel like, I don't know, you don't feel fulfilled. Yeah. And I think that's not even just in business, that's in like everyday life, or like if we're not doing what we love, you know. And when you're in a bad headspace, I feel like it really is easy to not feel fulfilled, right? Because you're not even just fulfilling your life, you're not fulfilling yourself, right? Yeah. You're not filling your own cup of tea. And so even like when I was going through all my stuff, you know, I'd go to work and I'd be like, fuck, like how long until 4:00?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And now I'm like calling Bo, like, let's do this social media. Like we're doing this, we're doing a speakeasy, you know, we're doing this, we're doing that. Like we're just trying, like I'm a lot more present. So I think if you also fix yourself, right? And that's for relationships, that's for your own life. If you start fixing yourself, everything else around you in your life will start falling into place. You know?
That's so true. Yeah. What is it? Somebody says something similar, and I can't quote it or anything, but pretty much they say the same thing. Like if your life at home, and if you have a family, if that situation is not healthy, if that situation is not thriving, then everything that you try to do professionally is just going to go to waste. Or anything that you try to do in your life, whether it's just you love your 9-to-5 job, which I think is great. You know, if your home life, whether it's just you're a single person, whether you're dating somebody, whether you're married with kids, it's all the same thing. Like if your home life is not dialed in, then everything else around you is going to not be to its fullest. It's not going to meet its fullest potential. You may still be doing fine and whatever, but you're still not going to be able to leave the house in the morning and say, I can conquer anything because my foundation's strong. You know, like your foundation, if it's strong, then anything is possible. And like I said, if you're a single person, the foundation is just in your head. The foundation is the people that you surround yourself with, friends, people that you work with. Like really pay attention to who you're surrounding yourself with. If you don't have, maybe you don't have family around or whatever, just do an analysis of who you hang out with. Like who do I hang out with when I'm at work or when during my downtime? Do I want to be more like those people?
So important. My mom says it's like surrounding yourself with better like players around you.
Yeah. And
like your podcast, just so you all know, Bo has a podcast, like almost like an entrepreneur podcast. A lot of like really, you know, big guys on, dude, successful people. No, but you know, it's interesting to hear them speak too, because it really is so true. My really good friend in college told me that when I was a senior in high school. He's like, who you live with your freshman year of college really matters.
Yeah.
And I remember being like 18 at the time and thinking like, I want to live with my best friends, like, you know, kind of whatever. And it's so true. Who you live with and who you surround yourself with is so important, because you really are who you hang out with.
Absolutely.
And, you know, so if you're hanging out with a bunch of drunks that drink every night and that, you know, just kind of don't have any, you know, aspirations or goals in life, like it's going to start weighing in on you. Yeah. 100%. So, you know, I think it is really interesting to start surrounding yourself with, because you can also learn from so many people that have a business, right? Or who maybe do social media. You go to a lot of conferences and stuff, you know, and if you surround yourself with people who are, you know, multi-millionaires doing what you do, it makes you want it just as bad, right?
Well, and you get into the same rooms with people, you know, so that was a big catalyst into me, you know, taking the leap from my job to owning my own business and growing that as a company, and, you know, being able to hire people. It all started with getting into the right rooms with the right people. No question. Was that the biggest thing for me? Was, you know, because like I grew up around, you know, friends and different people. My family was great. You know, that was I guess that's a different conversation, but like my family was super, super great. You know, like some people have really rough upbringings and dad's not around or mom's not around or both are not around or one's abusive or whatever the case may be. Like I had a great family. And so, you know, but it was never like really business minded type things. It was just more so like, you know, go to college, get a good education, go get a really good job. And that was, you know, that was great. That was what we did. And then for me, again, I just had that little, and probably because of my family, because I had such a great family, I had a little bit more of a want to go and do more, you know, because I looked at it as like, I've had such a great life. I've had such a great family. You know, I have no excuse not to be successful. You know, and some people take it the other way. They're like spoiled and they don't want to do anything. And so like, absolutely not does, you know, you don't have to have money in order to be successful. You don't have to have all these resources in order to be successful. It's honestly, you could have all the resources in the world and still be a loser. It's who is the most resourceful in the room. And because you could have nothing, but if you're resourceful and if you can go and learn and pick people's brains and just be a great communicator and a great just collaborator with other people, you're going to pick things from their brains that are absolutely unbelievable. And then they're going to be like, hey, meet this guy over here. He kind of does what you're wanting to do. And meet this girl over here. She's super good at this. And then you're just meeting all these people, and then you just start to grow. And so for me, like, I really do like the entrepreneur business space. And so I try to surround myself with people like that. I try to go to the conferences where all the top people are going to be at, because I've shaken hands and had conversations with some of like the biggest in the game, and it's a game changer. And what you find out is that these are all just normal people. Mm-hmm. Like, they'll have a drink with you and talk shop and discuss how they got where they were, or discuss how they got where they are today and all the mistakes that they made and things that they would do differently. And these are the top dogs. Mm-hmm. And everybody's like, ooh, like, that person's so special, I could never hang out with them or talk to them. If you insert yourself, like, you have to insert yourself. Nobody's going to just say, come on, Bo, we're going to take you to this thing. You pay the money, you take yourself out there. And I went early on, I had not that much money to be doing stuff. Like, we were on a tight budget, no extra stuff. And I was like, you know what, screw it. Credit card, I'm going. Like, I'm going to put it on my credit card, and I'm going. Because, and then, you know,
and that's scary if it doesn't work out, because then you're
I'm in debt, you know. But lo and behold, you know, it was worth it. It made everything worth it. And now every time there's a big event, you know, that's happening, I don't go for the event. I don't go for the cocktail hour. You know, mm-hmm. I go because there's going to be people there that may change the direction of my life forever. You know, and the cocktail hour, like, that's where a lot of people hang out and talk shop. You know, you don't have to drink alcohol. You could just go and get yourself an NA or get yourself a club soda and hang out with people, mm-hmm. and learn and ask questions and do interviews, do quick, like, you know, little things, you know, little, like, quick interviews. And this doesn't have to be entrepreneur space. Like, if you're struggling with drug addiction or depression, find like little conventions that people go to, so then you can talk to people who have gone through what you're currently going through. You know, and because I know that you like talking about that stuff, because it's an incredibly important subject. So everything that I've experienced, other people can experience in different areas. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And
I think a really important thing to kind of like circle back to on that is, you know, how you said it's all about being resourceful, right? Like, we have so much resource at our fingertips, and it's just up to us if we want to use it. Mm-hmm. And I think, like, how you said you've had a great family, but, like, I didn't have a father, right? But then you could use that as an excuse, like, right? Like, you have a child. Yep. So you could say, oh, well, you know, I didn't have a dad, so I'm not going to be a dad of my child. Like, it just at the end of the day becomes an excuse, right? And you kind of play the victim, which, of course, it was shitty. It was a really hard time. Yeah. But you have to change that victim to, like, a winner's mindset. I remember I had, like, a capstone class in college, and the teacher would always say, like, winner's mindset versus, like, a whiner's mindset, right? Mm-hmm. And, like, we can use excuses and say, oh, well, you know, my parents weren't successful, so I'm not going to be successful, right? But I think that's the most beautiful stories of, like, when people come from nothing and they completely, you know, they change their whole entire life and become, like, beyond successful. Yeah. You know, in their personal life and business life.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and that, you know, I go back to, that's why it's important to surround yourself with people and get into the right rooms, because you'd be surprised on when you walk into the conference or into the room, and you're surrounded with people and you start just talking to people, or maybe you hear a speaker that you never heard of talk about exactly what you're going through and how they made it out of it. So now you don't have an excuse. Now it's a choice. It's always a choice. Like, oh, you know, let's say theoretically my parents, you know, weren't successful, or my dad wasn't around. You could say, yeah, well, because my dad wasn't around, I'm going to be a horrible dad and not be present. Or it could be like, because my dad wasn't around, I'll never abandon my kid. Like, I'll always be there for him. Or I'll never abandon my friends, or I'll never not do as much as I can in my work. Or, you know, it's a choice on what you want to do. And it's easier said than done. You know, like, it's 100%. Easy to sit here, like, in the comfort of a home and, like, talk about things like that. But at the end of the day, it is about a choice. You know, it really is that simple. For me, it was like, I could sit and be relatively happy, always, you know, make okay money, you know, and not really push to get to where a life I know I could get to, or at least try, because the biggest thing I don't want to experience is regret. I don't want to be on my deathbed and say, like, what if I would have quit my job and started that business? Mm-hmm. Like, what if? Mm-hmm. Like, what if I would have done it? And so now that's the way that's always what I ask myself is like, oh, like, what about this business venture? Because now I'm like going into all different types of different business ventures and starting new businesses. And it's like, well, what if I start that? And some fail and some work out great. But if it's like, so now if I think of something, it's like, all right, I'm going to do it. I'm just going to do it and see what happens,
and it all falls into place like so beautifully. I feel like if you just ask for it, like this podcast, for instance, like I was super scared to start it. I remember talking to you about it at the restaurant.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I was like, what do I have to get, dude? Like, how do I even do the technology? Like all the technical, technicalities of it. Like, how do I do that? How do I hook up this mic? And now he just taught me a little bit something else here. It's all learning. And I think just being uncomfortable is so important, right? Like I feel that's a big reason I said earlier, but why I had to move. Because all I knew personally was Sedona, I grew up here. I moved here when I was 7 from Scottsdale, so Arizona boy. Yep. And all I knew was driving to Flagstaff, driving to Vegas here and there, maybe with my mom, like driving to California for vacation here and there. Like the world felt so small. I remember going to Europe for my first time. And I remember flying, and it was like a 5-hour layover, and you're flying for 20 something hours, and you're like, damn, this world is so big, right? Yeah. Like you realize how big the world is, but you have to get uncomfortable, and you have to in order to grow. And I think, it's not. I think we're so easy to judge, right, on like other people that do get stuck here, or who may have never, who kind of say, oh, I had a child or I haven't explored, but like, it's so important to kind of take that next step. And like you said, even if it doesn't work out, even if you have to move and maybe your job doesn't work out, like I wasn't able to stay in Vail because like it was just getting really expensive. And I felt like personally it was like I was working to live. Like I wasn't living to work, and I didn't have a work-life balance. But at least I said I did it, right? If I would have never moved to Vail, who would have ever known? And I wouldn't have taken those years out of like anything, because I really did grow a lot and learn a lot. But why do you think it's easy for people to kind of get stuck? Like, why do you think it's easy for them to just kind of stay, Well,
I think number one, it's just the easier thing to do. Yeah. When things get tough and let's say, I always use like business references just because that's the world I live in and stuff. You start a business, let's say, and it starts off relatively good. And then you start losing clients, or you start running out of money, then it's not as fun. It's not as good. So I think it's easier to like maybe just say, you know what, we're going to stop it and I'm going to go do something else. Somebody made a good point when they said that 99% of businesses, small businesses, when they get started, typically don't make it. And it's not because like the business wasn't a good idea or that it wouldn't have worked out. It's just because 99% of people quit too early. And so I think that for me, it's like, it doesn't matter really how hard things get. And like I said, I've worked really hard up to this point, so things are going great. But tomorrow things could fall apart. And then I'll have to say, like, what now? Like, what is the next plan of action? It's not to give up. Like, it's to fight back and say, okay, this is what I'm going to do next. And this is how I'm going to get back on top. And this is how I'm going to win again. Instead of saying, oh, it didn't work out, poor me. It's, what is the next plan of action? And so I think it's just the easier option for most people is just to say, I don't want to continue on doing this anymore. So I'm just going to not, I'm going to give up. And for me, it's just like, for me personally, it's so crazy that I would think that. Like, there's just no way I would think that, but that's me. And I think I've trained myself and I've gotten to the right rooms, and I accredit it to just all the people that I've learned from and all the people who have helped me and stuff. It's not because of me. It's just because of like the people that I've surrounded myself with who have been amazing, and that's why, like, for friends, for me, I try to surround myself with people who, hey, when we get together for lunch or dinner or whatever, what are we talking about? Are we talking about the Super Bowl? Or are we talking about, oh, hey, I was going to tell you about this really cool business idea I was thinking about? So that's what fuels me. That's what excites me. That's what I enjoy talking about. I could talk about that 24/7 with people who also want to talk about it 24/7. Not everybody does. Like, you may be listening to this and I'd be like, I could care less about business. Totally fine. Like, boring can be business, or business can be boring for a lot of people. But I think it goes for anything. Like, if you're wanting to pursue, maybe it's your fitness, maybe you want to like get in really good shape. There's many examples of people out there who have like worked really hard at it, And then things got hard and things got more difficult and schedules got in the way and all of this stuff. And then they just stopped rather than pushing through, you know? So anyways, to answer your question, like, I just think it's the easier option. I just think it's easier to say, you know what? There were too many things that were against me. And so I couldn't make it, rather than saying there's literally nothing that could stop me. I may fail. Like I may fail, but that doesn't mean that I stop. Like I'm going to fail. I'm going to get back up. I'm going to fail. I'm going to get back up, and I'm going to keep trying until it works out, because the only way to lose, the only way to actually fail for good is to stop trying. You know, like literally you can't fail unless you stop, which I think is pretty cool. Like as long as you keep trying, keep going, there's no failing there.
He likes your camera.
He does like the camera stuff.
I think so. What advice do you have for people who are feeling stuck, or like feeling stuck in their work, or kind of like scared to take that next step? Like what are some advice you have for those people?
So I define, you know, what it is you want, like long term. Do you want more money? Do you want more freedom? Do you want to have a fresh start? You know, what is it that you want? And once you discover and really define what you want, figure out if you're struggling to do it on your own, then reach out to people who you trust, who you admire, who you believe could make the process easier for you. And for a lot of people that are introverted and different things, that's a really big step, is to reach out to somebody randomly and say, hey, I need help with this, or would you mind discussing this with me, or something like that. So I think if you're just feeling stuck and you're not sure which direction to go, you have to talk to people, you know, because you're stuck. Like if you could figure it out, you would have. You know, like that's the whole point of being stuck, is you're like, I don't know which direction to go. So you have to be resourceful and say, oh, you know, this person kind of went through a similar situation. I'm going to take that leap and send them a direct message or something on Instagram and say, hey, I would love to buy 10 minutes of your time, buy you coffee, and I just have some questions for you that I need to get off my chest and get an answer to. And I'm thinking that you can help me, you know, with it. And so, I mean, I've done that. I've had people reach out to me about things, and I certainly have reached out to many people saying, hey, and it gets easier after you do it. So like, you know, when you ask somebody the first time for help, then you're like, wow, that person was so willing to help me. So, you know, next time I'm going to be quicker to ask. And of course, like for me, I always like to just return the favor in some way. Like at the very least, like buy them coffee. Like everybody, you know, enjoys somebody paying for their coffee and for their lunch or dinner or whatever the case may be. And just for that one-on-one interaction to get an answer to some of the questions that are holding you back, you know? But that is the hardest part for some people too, is just like reaching out and saying, hey, Kyle, I need your help with this. I'm struggling in my head about these thoughts, and I know you've been vocal about them on social. Can we sit down and chat sometime? You know, and I think that's hard for some people to do. Like I said, though, once you do it, it gets easier and easier and easier, and then you'll be like, man, I want to pour back into other people. You know, and so that's why I think social is so great, is that you can be helping people that you don't even know you're helping every single day with your story, with the things that you've struggled with the failures that you've gone through. You can be helping people, like, and they may never comment, engage, like it, share it. They may never even do anything, but you may see them in person one day and they could say, you really, really helped me with this, and I appreciate it. You know, and that means more to me than a comment. You know, the comments are nice, but
nice little review.
Comments are nice for the algorithm, you know, but
no, I think that honestly, the amount of people that have reached out. So if you're listening to this, thank you. Have like personally like reached out to me and said thank you, or this helped me, or I want to be on this podcast, or you know, thank you for sharing. It means a lot. You know, I think that's a big reason why I wanted to do this. Yeah. And it's obviously scary to be vulnerable, or scary to step out of your comfort zone or your box or whatever it is. But that's where you grow, like, you know. Well,
so let me ask you, what was your inspiration behind wanting to do the podcast? Who are you trying to reach? Who are you trying to help?
I think everyone, especially men, bro, we are just taught society to not have feelings, right? Like, true. If you fail in a business idea, you're scared to tell anybody, right?
It's true.
Like if you fail, you're like, fuck, like, you know, like and that's in anything, bro. It could be a date goes bad, and you're like hype your friends up, you're like, yo, bro, I'm going on this date, and then it doesn't work out. Or, you know, it could be anything. It could be your personal life, a job. You know what I mean? Like it was hard for me coming back, like, I mean, to Sedona too for that, but in Vail, like, it might have not worked out fully, but you know, it's such a blessing. Like I said, everything happens for a reason. But I think like society, us men, which is why I really wanted to start this podcast, is there's not really a platform for us to be vulnerable. Like I go to therapy, and it's a place for me to be vulnerable with my therapist, who's 91, which I pray I'm like him when I'm old. He's the smartest man ever. But it's a place for me to be vulnerable, and it's a safe space. And that's what I wanted to create for men on this podcast. It's like, awesome. You know, interview how they've overcome their problems or their obstacles, or how they've gotten to here, how they have gotten to this. And it is just, it's so empowering to hear like stories, right? And
absolutely.
Hear other men be vulnerable too is just a really empowering thing for me. And I think it's just what we need, right? Because of course, there's probably things in life where you have a wife, and like if you're struggling with something, I hope you have that relationship where you can tell her. But there are some people who don't, right? They come home and they've had like a really bad day, and they maybe don't have a good home environment, and they can't really be honest with their spouse or their friends, or if they're not married. How you said, like who you surround yourself with is called a friend. Like some people don't have those friends, right? They don't have a friend they can call and just cry to, you know what I mean? And that's why like Caleb, who I started this podcast with, is like, dude, I'd come home and like it was such a safe, beautiful space where I could like cry or like say, hey bro, like I need a hug, or like I need to talk to you about something.
Absolutely.
And we all need that friend, right? And
no, keep going.
No, and I think it's just like it's important for us to really have those friends, right? Like, and how you said surround yourself with people. Is if you don't have those friends, bro, who you can be vulnerable with and really tell you, who you're not going to feel judged if you know, tell them like, hey, I'm really not okay, who aren't going to judge you, then you're hanging out with the wrong crew.
Oh, for sure.
100%. Like if I have my close friends, they know this, like they can call me and I can call them and just be honest with them. And, you know, it's just I think men, it's hard for us to be vulnerable because we have to be this like strong, you know, like successful, no feelings, no emotion, you know, always okay, everything is chill, you know, like, how are you? Oh, I'm great. How are you? I'm great. Like, it's just kind of like we don't want to go at that depth. And things can be really, really shitty, right? And people can say, oh, everything is fine. But I remember I talked about this, I think, in the first podcast, but I was in college and I listened to, have you heard of Lewis Howes? The like School of Greatness. It's a podcast.
Oh, yes.
So he had Ethan, I think I have his book right here. Ethan Cross. And his book is about chatter in our brain. Anyways, like he said, I in his podcast, when your friend asks you how your day is, I want you to be honest when someone asks you next. And I literally we were at Grand Canyon Brewery. I was in college with my buddy Matthew. And we brought our laptop. We're gonna do some homework and just have a beer. And he's like, "Hey, bro, how's everything been?" And I was just literally listening to the podcast like the day before, and I was like, "Fuck, this is the person I'm gonna have to be on this, you know." And I was like, and I trust Matthew. We had that same relationship, and I said, "Honestly, bro, I'm like really not okay." And I started crying because I was going through some relationship stuff at the time. And then Matthew starts crying because he was going through some relationship stuff. And we're like sitting there outside together, just like bawling. And the girl comes up and she's like, "Can I get you anything?" And she's like, "Oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to like interrupt." And we're like both crying. I'm like, "It's okay." Like, you know, gosh, But it was the most powerful thing. It was like, so now that you're going to be vulnerable, I'm going to be vulnerable, right? Instead of just being like, "Yeah, I'm good." So I think it's so important to find those friends and like who you surround yourself with, right? Like I feel like in college personally, my circle was huge, bro. Like I was in a fraternity. I mean, even growing up here in Sedona, like everyone knew me. Go to parties in Cottonwood or Sedona, I'd be like, "Kyle, what's up, Kyle?" Like, because I was a super extrovert. I was super outgoing. Everyone I played sports. Like everyone knew who I was. And then, but like, it was interesting because now, bro, it's like, yes, I run into people here. But my close friends, you know, they're my close friends, right? Because like I surround myself with those people, and I have the boundaries to say, "Hey, like I love you, but like you don't really serve a purpose in my life anymore," you know? And also, you know, you can't enable people as well. Like if you see like a real friend is if you see your friend fucking up or messing up in life or doing things, you know, a real friend pulls you aside and says, "Hey bro, You know, like, I love you. I'm just telling you this because I care about you.
Yeah.
Like, what are you doing?
Yep.
You know what I mean? And
Absolutely.
And that's a real friend.
Oh, yeah.
And you need those people in your life to kind of retract you back into, you know, it could be business too. You know what I mean? Hey, like, what are you doing? Hey, can I like offer you some advice?
Yep.
And you just surround yourself with better, like my mom says, like better players. And it's so true, you know? So I love hanging out with you or like other people because you have this mentality of like, you can, even in business, bro, like at the restaurant, like you can just get complacent and just say, okay, I'm just going to keep going. Like, it's okay. You could stay at this level.
Right.
It's working. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's working, but like, let's shoot for new cocktail menu.
Right.
Like, we're about to do no seed oils for like absolutely none in the restaurant. We did no corn syrup years ago, but like, just to say, okay, well, let's build a plant wall or let's do social media.
Right.
You know, and it's so interesting to see how things, because you kind of have to keep going with the flow.
Of course.
You know, you can't just say, okay, I can just, you know, sit here.
Yeah.
But yeah.
That's why I've been calling it, like, rather than just trying to survive, thrive, you know. So thrive is greater than surviving, just because everybody wants more in their life. And that more could be defined by anything you want. It could be just more as I want better quality relationships. It could be I want more. I want to earn more money wise. I want to do that for these reasons. I want to be able to have bigger and better experiences with my family. I want to be able to travel more. I want to be able to not worry about money. Like when bills come around, are you worried about paying the bills? Are you chilling and saying, I've worked really hard to get to this point, so I don't have to worry about this? Because at the end of the day, like, there are a lot of people who, let's say you're married and maybe you've gone through this where you aren't making that much money, budget's tight. It creates a more, just stress is high. Your stress is high. Your spouse's stress is high. You don't know how the bills are going to get paid. That's not a good feeling. Like, that really sucks, and it can create tension in a home. And luckily, like, my wife has been really, really supportive. You know, never have we gotten into arguments over money, because she's just been supportive. It's like we're pursuing this thing together. And I think that she always has had like this belief that I was going to do something, you know, great. And for us, you know, not great on like I'm a great person, but great for us, great for our home. And like, I just can't give her enough credit for just being so present and so supportive and encouraging, even like during times where she had no reason to be. Like, she had no reason to be supportive, and like there was no real plan or anything. I was just like, I want to do this thing. And she just believed in it. Like, you know, big shout out to her, because it's like, I have these ideas sometimes, especially now. Before, I really wasn't as innovative or creative or, you know, wanted to come up with business ideas. Now it's all I think about, all I do, and it's great. And we do that together, her and I. But before, I'm like, I don't know where she got this like automatic, you know, belief in me. You know, but it's been a huge reason why we've gone from A to B, you know? And it'll be the reason why we continue growing and getting better and better. Is because she just is like, all her chips are in on me, you know? And that's like, and again, so like, that's my wife. We've been together for 10 plus years.
Oh, I didn't know it was that long.
Yeah, dude.
Damn,
We've
bro.
not married, but yeah, we've been together for 10 plus years. Got together really early on, which I think is one of the greatest blessings of both of our lives, is that we didn't have to worry about going through like the dating scene and being with people, not being with people. It was really great for us. And, I can't remember where I was going, but it's, you know, it was really cool for her to always be there and encouraging, you know.
And like see each other grow. What changed you? Because you said like you haven't always had those like business ideas and business mentality. Like, how did you change it, or how did you?
I think you get to a point where you're sick and tired of being sick and tired, you know. And for me, like there was a point in my life. Actually, here's a big one. And I tell this story. I've told this story on my podcast, other podcasts, where I was making decent money at the job that I was at before. Like I said, that was such a great company, but there are some people who are they just don't want to do the 9-to-5 thing. Like they know that they're capable of something more. So the company was great, but I remember I was working at that company, and you know, times were getting slower and stuff. And I went to the dollar store to pick up dog food for my dog. This is like a
At
huge
the dollar store, bro?
at the dollar store. Dude, I was like, I always like when things got tight. I mean, it's just like you go to where you can, where you afford, you know?
Straight up.
And I love talking about this now because it's like we've just come so far, you know. So it's really cool to look back on this story. Anyways, go to the store, pick up a small thing of dog food, go to pay, boom, card declines. Right, and so I was like, man, that's so just humiliating. There's a long line behind me of people, and she's like, oh, insufficient funds, and I was like, oh, I would play it off like, oh, you know, that card doesn't work or whatever, you know, to try to keep some pride in me, you know, kind of like what you were talking about. It's like, why is there this thing of people that, you know, everybody has gone through something like that, you know? And anyway, so she's like, card declines. And I was like, I left there feeling like, you know, like there's got to be more to life. There's got to be more to, you know, all of this. And so I said, I got to make a change. So then I started like researching and, you know, listening to more like business related podcasts on how to start a brand and how to start a business. And then I was like, you know what, I think I can do this. There's a need for it. People are asking me for it already because I was doing social before at the company I was at, you know, for me personally. And so businesses would reach out and say, hey, can you help us with this? Can you help us with this? I was like, man, there's a demand here that I apparently, you know, can provide. And then I just started building kind of a business plan around it. And, but before that, I was not entrepreneurial at all. Like I didn't have, really any drive to do anything besides just kind of survive, you know? And, but that was one of the turning points that was like, no, I want to thrive. I don't want to feel this way. I don't want to feel like I can't afford the things, like the necessities, you know, like I don't want to feel that way. And so I was like, I got to make a change. And so ever since then, it's just been grow. And it's been like really healthy growth, you know, like we've worked for every single thing, you know, and which is a really cool thing. Now, you know, you have business opportunities that pop up and you just get to look back on the times that, you know, again, that was a decision for me. Usually I get, you know, pissed and start just blaming everything else instead of blaming myself and saying, this is you, like, this is your problem, you fix it, rather than pointing fingers and saying, you know, that kind of thing. So, but that to answer your question was kind of like the main pivotal point was that time in my life, you know.
I think it's so important to like have those moments to like kind of go back to, you know, and like see that was a big pivotal moment in your like healing journey or business, you know, endeavors or whatever it is. Like that was kind of where that just switch was like, you know, like I can't live like this anymore. Yeah.
And the way I've talked about it too, like on other podcasts is that, and I use that as an example just because it's an easy demonstration of that was happening a lot, it seemed like, you know, at that time. And I was like, you know, what can I do? So then I started developing these business ideas. Now everything's great. But my mom said something once that she got from somebody, but I always give her the credit because she told me, and she said that there are certain things in life that you wouldn't have chosen, but you wouldn't change. And for me, that was like one of those moments is looking back now, I'm so glad that lady said, you know, there's insufficient funds on this card. Because if that wouldn't have happened, I'd have just continued to survive and get by. You know, I'm so glad that she was like, you know, you don't have enough money for this dog food. That's it. Like, that's what she told me. That's how I received it. And I was like, nope.
Yeah, this is
not going to be the way I live. Like, I just have something inside me that wants to do more, that wants to be able to provide more, that wants to be able to have experiences and not worry about money.
How long ago was that?
That was 5-6 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
So how long did it take you to like really start kind of like transitioning, and was it from that moment?
It was probably 2 years after that time, you know, because again, like that was one incident that happened, you know, a bunch during that season of life. And so I think about 2 years it took to where we are now, you know, that's, you know, that I get to now just talk about those times, you know, because it's really humbling for me to look back and be like, this is why we did what we did. Like, we wanted more for our son. We wanted more for each other. We want more from this life because we love experiences. We like to go and travel. Like, we want to go to Mexico multiple times a year and go to other parts of the world multiple times a year. Like, we don't, you know, want to be held down and be constrained by money. I like, for me, I don't want that. For other people, they're like, I could really care less about traveling. I could really care less about making money. And that is 100% equally as fine as me wanting to, live a bigger and better life. Like, as long as you get what you want out of life, some people are like, I don't want money. And a lot of times it's because they've never tasted money. Like, once you taste money, then it's like, I want to make sure I continue making money because of the things that it allows me to do. It allows me not to have stress over money, which is great. It allows me to be able to travel and do things that I want to do. I think the big thing is that just money is not, it's not this thing that people should like flaunt around. It allows you to do the things that you want to do, whether that's buying expensive Legos and building Legos in your living room, or whether that's, starting a podcast, or whether that's traveling with your family. It doesn't matter, as long as you get to do what you want to do. And some people are like, well, I don't care about money. I just want to be able to, play with my cats, be a cat lady.
To say you shoot some fire at me, bro. No, I think it's just about being fulfilled. Like, absolutely. And that could be in anything, man. Like, and how your mom said, how if, would you change anything? And my therapist said that like a couple sessions ago. Yeah. He looked at me and he was like, if you hadn't gone through all this stuff that I've talked about in this podcast or in life with my father or whatever it could be, you wouldn't be able to give that to your little and big brothers, big sisters, or you wouldn't be able to have this podcast. And I was sitting there and he said, honest question, Kyle, like, would you change anything? And I was like sitting there, bro, and I wanted to say yes, I wanted to say like, yeah, because like that was really shitty, right? Like that was a really hard time in my life. Yeah. But, I don't have kids yet, but like, would I be the dad that I'm going to be one day if I hadn't gone through the experiences I have? Probably not, right? Yeah. And that's where you have to change that mindset of like, kind of poor me is like, okay, well, and that was a big thing I've talked about in my last podcast too, is when I moved home and I was like, fuck, I'm back home in Sedona. Like, I was depressed being here. Ben was like, dude, like you can either sit here with this mentality of like poor me, or you can say I'm here for a reason, like let's get to work. Yeah. And it took me that year, but like how you said it, dude, like 2 years you changed your life, right? You went from like being at the dollar store to having your car decline to feeling, I've been there, it's fucking really embarrassing. Yeah. And it's all, I swear, bro, it's always a line behind you at that moment. It's never like just you in line. Absolutely. It's always a fat line of people behind you. Yeah. And from being in that moment to like now, you're making a lot of money, you're being successful with your businesses, you have a flourishing family, beautiful son, beautiful wife, and for me, it's like, I have a beautiful home, like I get to live in Sedona, you know what I mean? Like there's so much to be grateful for. Absolutely. And you can really talk about this too, because in Sedona, there's a lot of people who are like, she would call like wounded healers, right? Yeah. Who say they're a healer, but they're out like drinking a bottle of wine every night and not really helping people, right? And she said to me, it was so interesting, she said, as a healer, like if you come to me and you say, okay, well, I need help with this, right? If she had only like done the work and stopped, let's say she's done the work at A, and she's only gotten to, K or L, right? That's how far she can help me. Right. And then she's got to pass me on to somebody else, right? Yeah. If she's done the work, and obviously work never stops, or it's always learning, healing, growing, doesn't stop. If you keep growing, you can take people or other people or yourself to keep going and flourishing, which I think is so important. Yeah. And, that's where it's important, is like to start, like, just take the first step, right? And like, like you said, if you have to take 2 steps back, well, then you got to take 2 steps back, but then take five steps forward the next time. Yeah. Well, it's like falling forward, is a really good way people have put it that I've learned, is like, if you're going to fall forward. So like fall, meaning when you fall, like fall forward in the sense that you're falling, but you're learning during that experience. And you're like, okay, well, that's one thing I'm not going to repeat, going forward. And some people are really stubborn and they're like, well, and they just keep making the same mistakes over and over and over. And, I just think that's a silly thing to do. Like if you're going to fall and you have a goal that you want to meet, whether that's business related, personal related, whatever the case may be, every time you fail at something, just fail forward, and for me, like that's meant a lot, because it's like, oh, maybe I'll lose this customer. Why did I lose that customer? Why, and fortunately for our business, over the last 2.5-3 years of Bullard Media, we've lost maybe two businesses that we've worked with.
So not that many. And we work with about, like I was telling you before, we work with about 45 companies.
So crazy, bro.
You know, and we've lost 2. And I don't
crazy.
say that as like a brag on us. I say it as like we just genuinely care about helping the people in that business, in the business overall, and just making sure that what we deliver is quality and exactly what that business wants. You know, and we get to work with amazing businesses, you know, like Secret Garden Cafe, shout out to those guys, like just amazing people, you know, like they're just willing to, like they have that desire to say, okay, I want to do whatever I can for the greater good of all of us, you know. Not every business is like that. And I think it's just really cool. So,
well, I think it's like how we talked about earlier. It's like, it's scary, right? It's scary to take, you know, that leap and just, you know, kind of, because we can always improve, like I was talking to Bo about. Like you can always do things better. Absolutely. That's in life, that's in business, that's in personal, whatever it is. You can always do it better, and just learning how to do that. And surrounding yourself with people who, like I said earlier, we've all said, like this whole podcast is like surrounding yourself with people you can learn from, because everyone can contribute to, like I tell my staff this is, the restaurant's been successful. It's, you know, like, it's been in the family for almost 15 years. But like that wasn't just me, right? That wasn't just my mom in there. Like every single person every single person around that has helped us has contributed something, right? Whether they were there for 6 months or they've been there for 15 years, like, or still there, whatever it is, they've contributed it to where it's at. And I couldn't have done that without all of them. And so it is a powerful thing to see in the business, is like, you know, see it grow, see where it's come from the bottom, and seen it from, you know, doing 100 people a day to now doing like 450 a day. You know, it's just crazy how much growth it has.
Wow.
What would you?
Largely because of a great social media.
Great social media guy. No, for sure. And also, what would you advice for people? What would you give advice for people wanting to take that next step, or reach that next goal? Like, what help you reach your goals?
So you know, we talked about being around the right people, surrounding yourself with winners, not whiners. You know, I like that. And so I don't want to cover that again, even though take note of that, write that down, because that is one of the biggest things, is just surrounding yourself with the right people. You know, but like the advice that I'd give myself that hopefully helps you is that if you want to take that next step, whether it's to start a business, whether it's to get healthier, whether it's to, you know, have better relationships, to have a better relationship with your significant other, your parents, whatever it may be that you want to achieve, like there's no better time than right now to do that. Like right now to do that. Because if you wait, then like, you know, you're going to leave this episode and you're going to, you know, go about your day. And if you're a busy person, you're going to start getting phone calls and texts, and you're going to be just getting caught up in your day. And you're going to forget that in that moment, there's something inside of you that's burning that you want to do. But then the busyness of your day to day is going to catch up with you, and you're going to forget about that fire that's inside you. And so for me, like once I made the decision that, okay, I'm going to change my life and I'm going to do it now, then your life is not going to change overnight, but you start making little bits of progress every single day. You start writing things down. You start making note of the things that other people are doing that you would like to do. You know, and so like whatever it is that you want to do, start it today. Start it right now. Start writing things down so that way you can come back. And I would put things under my pillow so that when I got home, I wouldn't forget them. You know,
That's
like
cool.
I would look back at it. And
like what? Like what would you
just
put on
like
your
a
pillow?
vision, a goal that I would have, you know, like I want to be here in 6 months, and I would go and I'd have a really busy day and I would forget about it. And then I would come and I'd be getting in bed, adjusting my pillows or whatever. And I would see the note and I'd be like, that's where I want to be in 6 months. And then I would be like wide awake. Like I'd be tired before I got in bed, and then I would get in bed and see the note, and then I'd be wide awake. Cause I'm like, now I just want to pursue this now. You know, so like most of the growth that I've experienced in the last 3 to 4 years has been from 10 to 2 a.m. 10 p.m. to 2 a.m.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely. 100%.
Just laying in bed, your wife's next to you, and you're just
no, like I would just be out on the dining room table or in my office at home or on the couch, you know, and just like it's actually really kind of cool to think about now because I very rarely get to like reflect on it. But that was very those were like really important times in my life looking back at it now, because I just like, there was something inside me that couldn't close my eyes. Like I'd be researching and writing things down and researching and writing things down and researching and working on it, and like working on just my skill as like an editor or as like a business person, or in my sales tactics on how to get business. How do I get business? You know, how do I grow this? How do I scale? How do I, you know, maintain? How do I sustain this? Like all of the things, you know, like what do businesses want? What do entrepreneurs want? What do brands want? And how can I provide that to them at the best level that I can? Because you're only as good as your best. Like, you know, your best may be better than my best, but it's still my best. Like I can only give what I got. And, but you can be adjusting what you have. You can be adjusting your best and growing and getting better and better and better. And so for me, like I had a busy day to day, like from 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. was really busy for me before. And, you know, so it was always like I'd get home, we'd go to dinner or have dinner, get cleaned up, and then I'd see a note or something would just be sparked in my mind, and there I am wide awake, like just working on stuff. And I just couldn't go. I forced myself to go to bed because I'm like, I'm going to be exhausted in the morning. Like I have to go to bed. So yeah, many times there was, and a lot of the things that I wanted to do early on, I never ended up doing. Like I wanted to get into real estate. I wanted to do different things. I wanted to do a lot of different things that didn't work out. Like, and luckily one of them did, you know? So that's something I don't even tell myself or give myself credit for, is that there was like 3, 4, 5 things that I wanted to pursue that most of them didn't work. There was one that worked, and all you need is one. You just need one at bat, you know? And so, just what are you going to do with that at bat?
What's like the hardest thing you've ever had to overcome?
Oh, interesting. You know, that section of my life was hard, I guess. You know, but just in a different way of just like, you know, having something to wanting more. Like that's a little bit different. There was a time, so when we had our son, it was like the greatest thing ever, right? But we had 2 gnarly miscarriages before our son.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. And so my wife, you know, she obviously went through the majority of that, but then I dealt with like the more emotional side of it and just seeing her go through it and stuff like that. So that was really hard for both of us. You know, for her, obviously, it was really tough because we wanted a baby so bad, you know, and like it was just like, oh, maybe it's not going to work out. And, you know, luckily, like I always say this too, like, again, it was one of those things where I wouldn't have chosen those things. I wouldn't have chosen the 2 miscarriages, but I wouldn't change it now because we have like a little prince. Like he's he's the best, man. He's like the best kid. And
He got better hair than you, bro.
Oh, he does. Like, I mean, he really does. And no, but like we always say, like that was just God saying, not now, not now, you know? And then boom. And it's like, because at the time, we had other friends that were pregnant at the time. Everything was going flawlessly. Like everything was going perfect. They were pregnant all at the same time. And like, amazing for them. Like we obviously would not want anything other than the best results, the best outcomes for everyone. But then it was, for us, it was back to back, and it was just really, it was brutal. And just brutal, like on her body, brutal on just all of it. It was terrible. And like losing 2 like kids, you know, and then not knowing like, are things going to work out? Are we going to be able to have kids or not? And so then when we had River, our son, it was just like, okay, boom, that was just God saying it wasn't the right time. And the question that I had a lot during that time was like, why us? Like we've tried to do everything so by the book, so right. Why is this happening? You know? And like if you can wait it out, then you'll get your answer. And we prayed a lot about it. Faith is a big deal for my wife and I and our family. And it's like, we prayed about it every day. And it was just like, just help us understand why this is happening. Cause should we not try anymore or whatever? And then, you know, River came and it was like every single answer or every single question was answered. It was like, well, that's why, like, because he's perfect. He couldn't be like more perfect for us. You know, he's an adorable little fart. You know?
That's wrong.
So it's, you know, but so that was probably the hardest, one of the hardest things that her and I have gone through. And for me personally, like that was tough, you know, to see someone that like the person that you care about the most and I've ever cared about the most goes through stuff like that, and like the emotional pain of it, the physical pain of it, like all of that, you know. What about you? Oh.
I'd say probably the hardest thing. I mean, as a kid, it was definitely my father. You know, I think just trying to like understand that.
Oh, for sure.
And like why that kind of happened. Because as a kid, you know, we like blame ourselves.
Yeah.
Because we don't really know why, right?
Absolutely.
Like, and I think that's the most messed up part is these kids. Like, for my little too, is like they just don't really have anyone else to blame, so they blame themselves for someone else's incapability to be a father. I think that as a kid, like, as a child, my accident definitely rocked me when I was in high school. You know what I mean? Which is why I had this carpal tunnel, and
Definitely.
so that was a funny circle, bro. I was in the same exact surgeon room area for this one. I was like sitting there, and you know, I just think, like, of course, we numb or do whatever to try to, like, cope with it. But I think that, you know, my father was probably the biggest one.
Yeah.
But then you can turn that around and say, yeah, I went through that, like we talked about earlier. But that's not the dad I'm going to be.
Oh, of course.
And at the end of the day, it's his loss, right? And that's a big thing for me is what's pushed me to do this inner work, right? Is this my father is 75 and he's done no inner work. Like that, of course, and that's another thing. Feel like, oh, well, that generation didn't really have a therapist, or men had to be this and that.
Right.
Okay, well, that you can use that as an excuse, right? Okay, well, it was just my generation. Like,
well, yeah, but you really can, because there were plenty of dads who were amazing.
100%.
You know, there are plenty of moms that were amazing. There are plenty of moms that sucked. There are plenty of dads that sucked. So, you know, that's what I've always looked at too. Is like, if somebody has done it once, then it can be done over and over again. Like, it just can. Like, if it's possible, then it's possible. And so now it's a choice. You know, it's a choice that I'm going to be a good dad or not a good dad. And, you know, there's nothing better, talking about like risks and stuff, there's nothing scarier than taking a risk. Like, not that having kids is a risk, but it's a whole new level of responsibility.
Well, it's not, you're like living for someone else now. It's not just yourself.
Well, and you are responsible for this person, this human, and their life. Like, they could not survive without you, you know? And so, and then you look at it on a deeper level, like who this person is going to be is largely related to how you raise them, you know? So like, for some people, is there abuse in the home? Is there, you know, whether it's verbal or physical, like that will shape that person. You know, and then there are some people who come out of it, but they're in deep pain. Like, they have some scar tissue there because of, and sometimes literally, you know, of like the way they were raised. And there are some people, it's just wild how life is, because there are some people who have had the greatest life ever and still turned out to be serial killers. And there are some people who have had the worst life ever and have turned out to be the most beautiful human beings that have ever walked the earth. It's just interesting to me. I think, and again, so you have to think, like, why is that? The serial killer, I don't know. Like, I would love to interview a serial killer. Like, I really would. I would really love to sit down with him and just say, like, what, you know, like, what happened? Tell me about your life, and just see what they say, because where did something go wrong? It's hard for me to believe that they were just born that way, you know, born to want to kill people or whatever. But that's a whole different, like, thing. So, you know, when you look at it, it's like weird to say, where does somebody's mental psychology change to say, I had a horrible upbringing, but I'm going to be a great human and give back to people, and I'm going to just ooze kindness because I didn't have it, you know? And then there's other people who had a violent upbringing and they're violent people. So it's just interesting to me, like, where does that shift happen? Where does that shift in their brains happen to say, I don't want to be like the way I was raised? Both ways. Like I said, you could have a great life and you turn out to be a dirtbag. Where did that shift happen? Why? Why did you not, you know, take advantage of that great life? Like I try to do. I try to take advantage of how great my parents were, because why would I not, you know? And so, you know, it's interesting to me.
Well, what's like some advice you would give yourself and 6 years ago when you were at that store, the dollar store, and your card declined? What's some advice you'd give that about right then?
Oh yeah. So that guy, you know, back 6 years ago or whatever it was, I would say, you know, just do things faster is what I'd tell me 6 years ago, is just move quicker, you know, because for a lot of the time I was just fearful of, you know, what if it doesn't work out? And I didn't ask myself enough, what if it does? I always asked, what if it doesn't work out? What if I fail? Rather than saying, well, what if all of this works out and it's a beautiful, and it's more than what you could imagine? Because everything that I've done has been more than what I could have imagined. And so, you know, now telling myself now, move quick, move fast, because if you're going to fail at something, you might as well fail at it quick. So then you can recover faster and move forward and like have that opportunity, the opportunity that's out there waiting for you to go get it. We get it faster. You know, whether it's financial gain or whether it's just, you know, I have just more peaceful mind, or whatever it is, like it's out there faster. I just have to move quick so that I can get the other things out of the way. Mm-hmm. You know, if you just sit and contemplate and meditate and like do all this stuff, which is all fine things, but if you do it for too long, then you're waiting too long to take action. Well, you could be taking action and going and getting the thing that's out there for you, you know? And so, I'm really excited to like have another 10 years go by or have another 3 years go by and see, you know, where I'm at in 3 years, because it may be completely different. It may be right on track with what it is now. It may be something else. Like I may be into cats. Like I'm not a cat person.
I guess he changed your mind or what?
She's been, you know, I don't know why he thinks it's she, but he's been cuddling me. You know, he's been just chilling right here. But yeah, so it's wild to look at how life works.
I think that's like something that I've really learned the last year is like how crazy life is. Dude, it's honestly, it's crazy, right?
Yeah.
Like
I think another thing, you know, it's because it's just, we're talking about life and stuff. I think sometimes people forget, because of how long the days are, how quick the years go. And that was what another thing my mom, you know what I'm saying? Like my mom told me that. She was like, it's when you have kids, the days are long, but the years are short. And that's why, like, oh, all of a sudden, you know, I'm 26 and my mom is like, it was like yesterday where you were just River's age, my son, 3 years old. But the days they take forever, you know? And so I just think I'm fortunate because, again, I've been around the right people who have given me this perspective of, yeah, like life is so short. Like everybody knows, you know people who we've lost. People have died. People have left our lives. And like it's done. It's over. And so for me, it's like I try to remind myself of that every day. Like even through the stress, like there's days where I'm really stressed. But then I try to bring it back and say, it's just business. Like this is a pretty small thing. Like it's big to me in this moment. But in the grand scheme of things, like this is small.
Yeah, it's nothing. You
know, and like, and like having a company and running a company and like that's a pretty stressful thing. Mm-hmm. On a person. And there are people who get stressed about, you know, smaller things like the price of eggs or the price of milk, or which I get. Like I get that. I get that things are expensive and that it's tough. But at the same, like we are breathing, you know, we can walk around, we can use our hands, we can see things, we can go and, you know, go on a hike. Like that's the kind of stuff that I'm trying to focus more on, because like in a blink, it's going to be my son's going to be older. I'm going to be older. I'm not going to have as much life to live. Like, it's just crazy how we forget that sometimes, you know, in the day to day, because the days are long, the days are annoying, the days can test us. But at the end of the day, like, it's going to go by a lot faster than we think. And I don't want to miss out. You know, I don't want to miss out on all the good that every day has, you know?
Yeah, I think it's like there's so much to be grateful for. You know, I feel like I said that in every podcast, but it's so true. Though. But it's so true. It should be said. It's so true to like live in gratitude is so important. That's probably the thing that has changed my life. And I think I asked you like what I would tell my younger self is just to like stop for a second and just think of like 5 things you're grateful for in that moment. Yeah. Because when you're in that shitty space, it's so hard, bro. Because you're like, what is there to be grateful for? Like, you know, I don't have a dad, or, you know, like your car declines, like what the fuck can I be grateful for? You know, and it's like, there's, like you said, we're breathing. Like I've lost a lot of friends really sad and who aren't here. And I know you have too. And it really sucks. And like some of them were just the most beautiful beings, and they had so much life, and they had this like you know, so many goals and aspirations and places they wanted to travel, and now their life is, they're not here. You know, obviously they're up there and watching over us, but you know, it is crazy how life can just end with a blink of an eye.
I think a good thing to do is like, sometimes I'll do this, is like, you know, think about a time, like literally close your eyes, think about a time where you're the happiest, you know. And for some people, that means like you had no responsibility. You didn't have to be anywhere. You just hung out with your friends, or you went to eat at the taco shop, like, or whatever it was. A lot of times it's when you just had no responsibility and you could do whatever. And So like for me, that was like when I was younger. Like it's different as you get older. Like different things make you happy. So like the happiest I am now is when I'm hanging out watching a TV show or hanging out and playing blocks with my son, and my wife is sitting there healthy and as happy as can be. Like when you look at the things that you care about the most in your life, whether it's your cat, whether it's your husband, your wife, your kids, whatever it is, and if they're all in the same room, happy, healthy, you're in a warm home or whatever it is, like if everything is good, like that's it. Like there's nothing that you should be worried about. Now, reality kicks in and it's like, well, I got bills due and I've got this happening and this thing with my, aunt is not working out and it's not a good relationship. But like, just try to think everything is good right now. Mm-hmm. And tomorrow it couldn't be. Like tomorrow I could lose everyone and everything.
Like that.
Just like that. And so it's like, that's something that it's like on a deeper level, and it's easier to say that, as things are good right in this moment for us. But it's something to like kind of just put away, for when, sometimes like almost like every night, like I'll like sit there and sometimes like our son will hop in bed with us or whatever, and he'll be sleeping there, and I'll just like look at him and I'll be like, thank God that he's in a warm bed. He's sleeping like a king. Like, I mean, he just sleeps so well. My wife is there. She's healthy, sleeping well. They have cozy blankets on. They have a solid roof. We don't have the nicest house in the world, but it's like it couldn't be better for us, right? Like, and it doesn't have to be anything fancy. Whatever your situation is, as long as you have a roof over your head, you guys can be warm and tucked in together. Like, you have so much if you think about it in that moment.
So much
things could be so much worse. Yeah. Like your child they could be cold and hungry and scared
on the streets.
Like I look at my son and I'm like, you could be scared and hungry and cold on this cold night, but your belly's full. Like it just is like when you look at its perspective. Mm-hmm. When you look at it like that, it's like, man, I don't really care what happens to my business. As long as I can make sure he's like this, for as long as I can keep him like this, I'm happy, So it's just like a lot of life. And again, I'm a 26-year-old kid. And how old are you?
29.
We're kids, We're babies when it comes to life and stuff. However, we know more than what we knew 5 years ago. We knew more than what we knew 10 years ago. And so we can talk about our experiences and talk about the things that have made a difference in our life. And I know 10 years from now, my perspective on things will be different, But I do know that, like, as long as my family's safe and healthy and happy, then, like, everything's fine,
I think that's, like, where you said just take this first step. Like, why not now? We're so young, bro.
Why not now?
There's so... Like, now is the time to kind of take the risk, right?
Well, and I don't even really care. Like, I'm passionate about the fact that if you're a 68-year-old grandma that wants to pick up cooking and get really good at cooking, then you should go out and you should make sure that you have the things that you need to have to cook. And I don't care. You don't have to have a nice kitchen. Mm-hmm. Just start cooking. And I would start recording yourself cooking. And if you're passionate about it, share it on YouTube. And I use that as an example because literally a grandma, I don't know how old she was, but probably 70s, started a YouTube channel. Now she has over 1 million subscribers, doing book deals, doing trainings, and about the thing that she loves.
Yeah.
Like, it's never too late.
Yeah.
Like, I don't care, like, how old you are. You could be 40, 50, 18, 16, whatever it is that you want to do. Like, do it now. Because you're going to be dead. Like, you're going to die. Yeah. Like, that's, like, it's true. You're going to die. So might as well do the things that you want to do now instead of just saying, oh, I had another life. Like, I hate that. I hate that when people say, oh, I had another life. I had done that. It's like, well, you're in a life now that you could do that thing. You could literally go and do that thing. So why not? Mm-hmm. And then, like, when you start having those conversations with people, it's interesting to see how they're like, it's true. Mm-hmm. Like, that is true. Like, I do love that thing. And if I could do that thing that I love and make money and actually be able to support my family doing it, why would I not do that?
That's like the dream, bro.
So now it's like a whole other conversation of like, well, how do I make that a reality? How is that possible for me? And when you actually start putting pen to paper and saying, oh shoot, like this could be a thing that I do. Like, I could make enough money to support my family. And then once you do that, then it's like, well, I could make enough to to book a trip to Greece and take my family there, and then just build. But it all started from a belief inside of you that said, I could do this, rather than saying, man, I wish I could.
I think that's like the biggest thing is like change the like maybe or I could to like I can.
Yeah.
You know, like just start having that mentality. My old roommate Caleb is super into the mantras and like the, you know, like the saying, say it for, you know, the mantras and all that kind of stuff. And I've been starting to do it, and it actually really helps. So I remember like I was not feeling well, bro, and I was like puking in my bathroom. This is like last month. I had the flu. Yeah. And he's just like, keep saying I am healthy. My body can fight. And I was like, bro, this is not the time. But it really, like, can't say that. But like, seriously though, it's so true. Like if you start saying to yourself, like, I can do it. I'm strong. Yeah. You know, like I've been working on my heart chakra for a while through acupuncture and through my own like healing stuff. And it's really your heart is the I am statements, right? Yeah. And that's something I think I've always struggled with ever since I was a kid, was like believing in myself. Yeah. And so it's so important to say like, I can, I'm powerful, I'm grateful, you know, like there's just, 1,000%. It's endless, you know, so.
1,000%. Yeah. That's good stuff, man.
Yeah. Well, I think this episode was really good stuff, bro. I really appreciate you being vulnerable and like talking about some business and, you know, where you've gone, your journey, and like really proud of you for what you're doing. And it's really cool to see. I think you probably can all agree on listening to this is like seeing your friends not only doing like well with doing what they love, but like just doing well in life, right? Like, it's really
1,000%.
It warms my heart to see you, you know, have a beautiful family and a beautiful business, and like it just warms your heart to see your friends doing the things and like making moves, right? Because we're at that age where it's like. It's kind of like you gotta get you gotta get it rolling. You gotta get that. You gotta get it going. So. You know, thank you for all listening to this. I hope you all enjoyed it and learned something from it. And thank you, Bill, for hopping up over here. I love you, bro. Of course, it's really good to see you always. And we'll have to do this again sometime or something.
I appreciate it, man. Thanks for having me on. Thank you guys for checking it out.
Yeah, what's in it? The name of your podcast? I'll toss it in this description. But
absolutely, yeah. So I similar to kind of what you're doing. A lot of it is business related, but it's called Unpacking Success. And so, you know, for me, it's really important just, you know, personally for me to talk to people and unpack how they went from nothing to where they are today, which could be they make, you know, multiple seven figures, multiple millions of dollars a year, or whether it's that they have an incredible base of in their faith and they're just an incredible, just their knowledge is insane. So I want to unpack that for myself and for people who are interested in that topic. You know, like I interviewed somebody who owns like a sleep apnea company to talk about what are the benefits of being treated for sleep apnea, as well as what are the negative consequences of not being treated for sleep apnea, and it could kill you. You know, so that's one of the negative things about that. So anyways, it's called Unpacking Success. I'd be grateful for you to check it out. Thanks for plugging it. But yeah, it's for anyone and anyone who wants to hear about how people have gotten to their level of success, and we unpack it, you know?
Sounds good. He doesn't have a cat walking around though. Sorry.
Yeah, so it's not as entertaining, you know, but maybe I'll get some cats for my episodes.
You never know. Well, much love, everybody. Thank you for tapping in, and hope you all have a great rest of your day. Appreciate you.
Everyone. Bye.